Good evening and welcome to the October 1st, 2024 Finance Committee meeting. May we please take the roll?
The Honorable Mayor Tack.
Here.
Chair Weber.
Here.
Alderman Novitt.
Here.
Alderman Clemmons.
Here.
Alderman Notes.
Here.
Alderman Powers.
Here.
Alderman Gashgarian.
Here.
Alderman LaVert.
Here.
Alderman Walther.
Here.
Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Director Holub. Our first item of business tonight is consideration of the minutes from the Finance Committee meeting held July 15th. Does anyone have any comments? Seeing none, I'd like to ask for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Our next item of business tonight is reviewing the city's mission statement and fiscal year 2026 fiscal policy. And I will ask Director Holub to present this.
Thank you, Chair Weber. This officially begins and kicks off our fiscal year 26 budget process. Each October, we ask the Finance Committee to review and affirm the city's mission statement and also to review and approve the fiscal year 26 City Council fiscal policy. The fiscal policy sets forth the guidelines within which we develop the budget. And so we review that each year to see if there are any recommended changes or any questions before we begin work on the budget. This year we have no changes recommended to the fiscal policy compared to the one that was approved last year, but I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the council? Seeing none, I'd like to ask for a recommended action tonight to affirm the city's mission statement and approve the fiscal year 2026 fiscal policy. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next, our topic is on the police and fire pension funding update. And again, Director Holub, would you please comment?
Of course. Thank you, Chair Weber. I know that you received a lot of information regarding our pension funding approach in your Finance Committee packet. The good news is we're not going to go through it all. I'm going to do a brief PowerPoint with some highlights and then answer any questions that you have. The first item included in the packet was a pension primer. We have made this document available on the city's website for quite a number of years. We hadn't updated it since 2018, so what you've received in your packet is a 2024 update. And it reflects just updated information regarding the 3 pension plans to which the city contributes. IMRF, the Illinois Municipal Retirement Fund, covers our non-public safety employees, and then we have a local police pension fund and a fire pension fund. Included in the pension primer is some information regarding benefits, participants in our plans, and governance of those 3 plans. I would just note that the benefits and employee contributions are set by state statute, so those cannot be changed by the city for any of the 3 plans. And the city employer contributions to all 3 plans are based on actuarially determined independent actuarial valuations done each year. IMRF runs on a calendar year, so it's an actuarial valuation as of December 31. And the city contracts with an independent actuary to do an actuarial valuation for police and fire pension plans as of April 30th each year. The pension primer also talks a little bit about Tier 1 and Tier 2. So the state statute created Tier 2 in these pension plans for anyone enrolled after January 1 of 2011. So we included some data in the pension primer for the police and fire pension plans to just show how our active participants in both the police and fire departments have transitioned from mostly Tier 1 to we have a good number of our active participants now that are Tier 2. I would note, however, that the city won't really see financial benefits of Tier 2 until long-term years from now because those tier 2 participants are still active. They are not retiring yet or drawing pensions. And so we're not really going to see the benefit of that for a number of years. And I would also note in the last 2 years, we've seen some legislation introduced to alter tier 2. So we're watching that very closely with the legislature to see if they did make any changes to tier 2 that could significantly change the financial condition of the pension plans. The pension primer also includes some discussion of the investment authority, both historical investment authority and then also covering the 2020 consolidation. So as you know, legislation was passed requiring that local police and fire pension funds transfer their assets to a statewide investment fund that is not managed by the state. It is managed by an independent elected board of 9, both for the police and for the fire, and they are responsible for investing those assets and accounting for them with each individual local pension plan so that there is no commingling, no transfer of assets between local pension plans. They're required to maintain that accounting. And we have seen both a reduction in investment management expenses and an increase in the return on those investments, which was the intent of the legislation, particularly benefiting smaller pension plans that had very, very limited investment authority prior to the consolidation. We also provided some historical data on the investment returns and funded ratios of the plan, and then some current plan data. So that is really just reference material for you, updated as of October of 2024, and we'll place that updated pension primer on the city's website. I also wanted to just highlight today the long-term strategy that the city has had regarding its police and fire pension funding obligations. We started having conversations in September of 2016 regarding the state-mandated formula and approach to funding police and fire pension obligations in Illinois. And we recognized that it was simply not fiscally sustainable. They've been working with a 40-year amortization period, but the first amortization period expired in 2020, and then the state moved it to 2033. Now they've moved it to 2040, and they're talking about moving it to 2050 or 2055. Each time that moves out, it just increases the interest costs and the long-term issues associated with getting these plans funded. So we did a modeler. This chart shows in the blue line what the actuary in 2017 forecasted for the city's contributions to the police pension fund. This is often called the ramp. It is developed and designed in the modeling of state statute to simply increase your contributions up to the mandated deadline for funding, and then it would drop off. And so each time that period is moved out, it just increases interest costs. So the city started looking at an approach that would increase contributions up front, but bring that ramp down so that that unsustainable increase in contributions each year didn't occur. And so we increased contributions in the early years based on the modeling, and then in July of 2022, we did an analysis of what we had accomplished to date. So we were 5 years into the new strategy. We had made several changes. We reduced the payroll growth assumption from 5.5% to 2%, and we had reduced the investment return assumption from 7% to 6.5%. And so those increased contributions in the front years, but you can see from the orange line in 2022, those were the forecasted contributions to the police pension fund through 2040. What it showed was that advanced contributions of $3.2 million in the early years, those first 5 years, would generate $25.5 million in savings over the long term. Increasing the contributions in early years gives them more time to earn investment earnings, and so that brings down the city's projected contribution. So just a comparison to the recommended contribution as of 4/30/24, the recommended contributions next year for police and fire is $6.4 million, but using the statutory contribution, it would only be $4.85. So you can see that those additional contributions benefit the long-term health of those pension plans. We continue to use a city pension subcommittee, and each year that city pension subcommittee meets in the summer and reviews the draft actuarial valuations and receives a presentation with the actuary. We invite both the fire pension board and the police pension board to attend that meeting so they can hear the presentation and be part of that discussion, because we're all in this together and we're all trying to accomplish the same thing. At that meeting in July, the pension subcommittee reviewed the budget to actual results for fiscal year 24, where we had significant investment returns in fiscal year 24. They received a presentation from the actuary with a preliminary draft actuarial valuation and several options for actuarial assumption changes. They reviewed the status of the modeling, and as a result of the presentations, the pension subcommittee recommendation was to continue to use the same actuarial assumptions as we had used in fiscal year 23. And they recognized that we continue to be on course of accomplishing the funding requirements for both police and fire without significant increases in contributions. I know this is going to be really hard to see, but I'll just give you a flavor for what the pension subcommittee reviews each year with the actuary. And you really have three lines. Here you're looking at the police pension plan. The red line is the forecasted contributions using the statutory minimum. So you're still seeing that ramp up to the deadline of 2040 and then the drop off. The blue line that's going downwards is a 15-year open amortization. So what that assumes is that each year you take the unfunded liability and you divide it by 15. As you reduce the unfunded liability, but you divide by the same number, you start reducing the contribution because you don't have as large of an unfunded liability to amortize. The problem with open amortization is that you'll never reach 100%. And so the goal of the city has been to find a blend between these two approaches that will minimize the ramp and increase contributions, but reach 100% funded status eventually. So the dark gray line is the forecasted contributions based on the city's current pension funding policy, which is 100% funded by 2040. And so you can see there's a slight increase, and then there's still a significant drop-off. So what the pension subcommittee is looking to do is find the sweet spot, the level of contributions over time that will meet the statutory requirement of 90% funded by 2040, but not see a significant drop-off of contributions. That's the dotted line. So the actuary is asked each year to present this to the pension subcommittee and show where we stand on the dotted line to see whether or not we're still meeting our goals. And so here with the dotted line, you can see effectively fairly flat contributions until 2040, and then a much smaller drop-off. And the goal of the pension subcommittee is to make sure that there's intergenerational equity, that taxpayers now are not paying a disproportionate share of the obligations. And so we see a smaller drop-off and then continued contributions going forward. The next slide is just the same for the fire. You see smaller difference because the fire pension plan is higher funded. So you don't see quite the same steep lines that you see with the police pension fund. So each year they review that. They could see that they were still on track. And so we're analyzing that each year to just make sure that we're on course. So we have those actuarial valuation recommendations included in the property tax levy that you'll discuss for the first time tonight, but 5 times over the course of the next few months. But on pension funding, happy to answer any questions.
Alderman Kashgarian.
Yeah, through the chair, thank you. Elizabeth, first off, I want to point out to the public, and I'm sure many of you have heard this before, but it was Director Hollab that first proposed that 15-year open-ended amortization, which has put us on a really strong footing. But I kind of want to pivot back to where we were in the beginning of the discussion. My real concerns about what the state had done in terms of establishing Tier 1 and Tier 2 back in 2011. And I've heard the same rumblings in terms of Politicians will buy votes any way they possibly can, and looking at modifying Tier 2 to really mirror Tier 1, which is a real concern to me, because as we finally found ourselves on solid footing, have we done any internal actuarial projections based on the room? And I know you should never act on rumors, but I'm a firm believer in planning ahead. And if there is some type of a hybrid there, do we have any sense as to what our increased burden would be, number one? And then number two, and I'm glad that Kurt is here, so Kurt Azimuth is with Hansel and Glink, which is our city attorney. As we learned, or as the state learned, any modification to a pension was deemed illegal by the state of Illinois Supreme Court. Is the shoe now on the other foot, and we've entered into agreement with those public pensions, and they're trying to increase the burden? Do we have stature within the judicial system to object to that and possibly try and approach this in a legal manner? And if that increased burden is placed on us as a municipality, which is clearly what the state is considering, do we have, I'm not a lawyer, so for the lawyers out there, forgive me, but do we have position to object legally and try and stop that from happening?
So, Alderman Gushker, let me just make sure I understand. So, the pension protection clause, which means that, says you can't diminish or impair somebody's pension after they've already received it. So, Tier 2 is going forward. You can't go backwards and change somebody's pension after they have those vested rights. So, you're saying, does the city have standing to enforce that?
No, my
pension?
question
Is that
is
the
if
question?
the state attempts to take those Tier 2 liabilities, forgive me for using that term, but
Yeah.
that's what they are to our budget. Do we have the ability to offer up any type of legal argument that, this agreement has been made and now you're trying to increase the burden on us?
I think there might be an argument. It might be a tough one, just because the state's obviously going to have the ability to structure that tier on their own. They're the ones that are the ones deciding how that tier works. Whether or not that would be constitutional, I think we would have an argument there if we think it somehow is violating a constitutional protection that the legislature can't go beyond. But unfortunately, since the legislature gets to create that second tier, we're going to have a hard time fighting it directly unless we can find a way to say that it violates the pension protection clause, which I don't know if trying to shift the obligations would directly violate that constitutional section. Maybe I'm misunderstanding your question.
No,
Yeah.
you're understanding my question very clearly. Thank you. And then I guess pivoting back to Director Holub.
Yeah,
Have
and
we
I would
done
say
any-
we haven't done any specific cost projections for a couple of reasons. There's a lot of variables out there. So there's a Tier 1 rollback. There's a Tier 2 rollback to move it right to Tier 1 as one possibility. Second, and more often you hear Tier 2 violating the safe harbor rules associated with Social Security because they are not eligible for Social Security benefits and do not pay into Social Security. But the Illinois Municipal League did an independent study that showed that Tier 2 doesn't violate the safe harbor rules. But on that premise, there might be some modifications to Tier 2, but not a complete move to Tier 1. There's also discussion out there about a drop program that would allow people to remain employed but suspend their defined benefit pension and begin to move to a defined contribution plan to allow them to remain employed in their department beyond, kind of establishing their retirement
Anybody
amount.
ever leave a defined benefit and
Yeah, and then you have the amortization period.
Yeah.
So I think as we see specific proposals put out there, I'm confident our actuary could run those numbers for us upon our
because that could
request.
have significant impacts on what we budget in out of our operational budget, correct? That's going to very much impact the services that we are able to provide for our residents. So it's worth noting. And then for those of you here who are here for a while, it's something that's worth
And I may just
attention
add
to
to
it.
that too, the mayor and I are both pretty actively involved with the various councils of government that we participate in, the Northwest Municipal Conference, the Lake County Municipal League, and then of course there's statewide organizations like the Illinois Municipal League, all of whom are universally mobilized around this issue and have worked, I think, to date pretty effectively in explaining to our legislators how catastrophic a rollback of Tier 2 would be for municipal budgets. So not to say that that has always prevailed in conversations in Springfield, but there is a lot of pressure from municipal organizations and councils of government to fight any potential changes moving forward.
Thank you. Thank you, Eileen.
Thank you for the thoughtful conversation. Does anyone else have any comments? Seeing none, I just want to echo Alderman Goshgarian and say thank you to Director Holub and her finance team for all of their work in keeping our city in great shape and well use of our taxpayer dollars with seeing that savings. That was an informational item, so we'll move on now to our 2024 property tax levy estimate. And there's quite a lengthy description there on our agenda. I'll just read the first part. The Truth in Taxation statute requires that the corporate authorities of each taxing district estimate the amount of its proposed aggregate tax levy not less than 20 days prior to the adoption of the tax levy ordinance. This estimate is used to determine whether a notice and public hearing is required. Consistent with the process utilized the past few years, it's recommended that the city formalize its tax levy estimate at the November 4th City Council meeting, at which time a public hearing date may be established if needed. And the proposed tax levy process would be as follows. November 4th would be our 2024 non-binding, thank you, Elizabeth, tax levy estimate and establish tax levy public hearing date if required. November 12th, discussion of the tax levy estimate. That's at our Finance Committee budget workshop. November 18th would be the 2024 tax levy ordinance first reading. November 21st, public notice of public hearing in the Lake Forester if required. And December 2nd, public hearing if required, tax levy ordinance second reading and final approval. And Elizabeth, I'll have you take it away from there.
Certainly, thank you. So this does begin a process whereby over the next couple months you will discuss the property tax levy several times. We do typically have a very detailed discussion of the tax levy and the individual components at the budget workshop in November. That gives us a good opportunity to go through the different factors, the different components of the tax levy. But that does come after the mandated truth in taxation non-binding estimate that would be slated on your November 4th City Council meeting. So we've done some preliminary work on the tax levy and did include in your packet an initial estimate of $41,445,598. That represents an increase of 4.56% over the prior year, which would not technically trigger truth in taxation because it's not more than 5%. But I would note that it does include the third and final phase of the Deer Path Park bonds coming onto the tax levy. We did that over 3 years. And does include initially an additional $500,000 to begin phase-in of debt for the police facility improvements. And so we would discuss those in detail at the budget workshop in November. It does include the police and fire pension levies as outlined in the independent actuarial evaluations. And then it does include the 3.4% PTEL increase on library and parks and recreation levy line items. That's their operating levy. So we traditionally apply the tax cap each year to that line item. And then a 2% increase to the general fund operating levy. So with that, we would just be looking for the Finance Committee to concur with the preliminary and non-binding estimate for the tax levy for the November 4th City Council meeting.
Any questions for Director Holub? Seeing none, our recommended action tonight is to recommend a non-binding 2024 tax levy estimate to be presented at our November 4th, 2024 City Council meeting. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, we'll carry on. Motion carries. Thank you. Other business for tonight. Elizabeth, do you want to comment on these, or would you like me to?
No presentations are planned. This is just some additional information. The flash report is available on the website. Quarterly investment report is included in your packet. Per state statute, per city code, we have the fee reductions or waivers granted in excess of $1,000, which is a quarterly item reported to you. And then the fiscal year 24 treasurer's report is included on your city council agenda this evening, and Jimmy Scott from the finance department will be presenting that.
Wonderful. Any additional comments from the council? This is an opportunity for the public to address the finance committee. Do we have anyone who'd like to come up to the stand? Seeing none. Thank you very much. I'll go ahead and ask for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Second?
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. We'll take a 5-minute break, and we'll be back to begin our meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Will you all please rise and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the first item on the agenda tonight is comments by mayor, and I would like to start with a resolution of sympathy for James Altunian and the family. Whereas on behalf of the City of Lake Forest, the City Council expresses its profound sadness at the passing of James Altunian at the age of 87 on September 27, 2024. And whereas Jim, together with Audrey, his wife of 63 years, raised 4 children in Lake Forest, Jennifer, Todd, Nicole, and James Altunian II, and was a proud grandfather of 11. And whereas since he arrived in Lake Forest in 1963, Jim was strongly committed to Lake Forest, and his passion and love for the community grew deeper with each passing year. And whereas Jim willingly gave his time and talent to the community as 3rd Ward Alderman from 1979 to 1985, as a member of the Plan Commission, chairman of the Forest Park Beach Shoreline Restoration Project, on boards for both the hospital and Lake Forest Country Day School, and as a volunteer firefighter. And whereas Jim Altunian was generous, in 1982 he personally donated the dais at which Bill sits today. Whereas Jim's fingerprints are found throughout the community, he had vision and took risks, always with the best long-term interest of the community in mind, and he achieved great success. His impact will endure for decades. Whereas Jim loved Lake Forest, the people and the places, and was often surrounded by family and friends who simply enjoyed being in his presence. Whereas Jim had a way of making people feel respected and valued, he inspired and made a positive difference in the community and in the lives of so many, and he will be long remembered for his accomplishments and contributions to the City of Lake Forest. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Lake Forest, in session October 21st, 2024, hereby expresses its deep regret and sincere sympathy to all the members of the Altunian family. Be it further resolved that this resolution be appropriately inscribed and conveyed to the Altunian family, with a copy to be included in the official minutes of the October 21st, 2024 meeting of the Lake Forest City Council. May I have a motion to approve the resolution of sympathy for James Altunian?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
The motion passes, and we do express our deep sympathy to the family. At this time, I would like to ask Catherine Cerniak to approach the dais.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Mrs. Altunian, and members of the Altunian family. It's my privilege to read a resolution prepared by the Chicago Bears in honor of Jim. Resolution of respect in loving memory of Jim Altunian. Whereas God has brought to a close the life of Jim Altunian, the staff and team of the Chicago Bears, with offices in Lake Forest, Illinois, feel it is befitting to express our sympathy to the family during this time of bereavement. You have our sincere prayers. Whereas he has served as a dedicated fan and supporter of the Chicago Bears franchise. Whereas he was part of the Chicago Bears franchise long history with a presence that spanned over 50 years. Whereas he witnessed both our largest victories and our toughest losses. His dedication and commitment to the team was a testament to his love for the Chicago Bears and the City of Lake Forest and the sport of American football. Whereas he was one of our longest standing fans, dating back to 1974. Whereas during his time as a devoted fan, he saw at least 20 players earn their place in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Legends like Walter Payton, Dick Butkus, and Gale Sayers. Whereas in 2016, we had the privilege of honoring Jim on the field during our game against the Denver Broncos, a moment that reflected the admiration we have for him and acknowledging him as someone who truly embodies what it means to be a Chicago Bears fan. Whereas we are grateful for the many years he spent cheering for the Chicago Bears, whereas we hope that his legacy and love for the team continue to inspire those who knew him. Our thoughts are with Jim's family and friends during this difficult time. To the family, friends, and the community of Lake Forest, we share your sorrow and will always include him in our prayers. We recognize our losses are heaven's gain. Humbly submitted on this 21st day of October 2024, Chicago Bears, Hallis Hall, 1920 Football Drive, Lake Forest, Illinois.
So again, I would like to express the sympathies of the city and the city council to the Altunian family. At this time, if you would like to leave, or you're free certainly to attend the rest of the meeting, but somehow I doubt it. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. The next item on tonight's agenda is a discussion of the Forest Park Bluff Stabilization and Forest Park Beach Pathway. As you all know, it's been a busy year at Forest Park with major progress on both the bluff stabilization and the beach pathway projects. A few weeks ago, we celebrated the completion, actually 1 week ago, we celebrated the completion of the Forest Park Beach Pathway project with a beautiful ribbon cutting ceremony. The project was made possible thanks to the incredible generosity of Lake Forest residents who donated nearly $1 million in 3 months. Tonight, we're excited to share a time-lapse video highlighting activity at the Forest Park from August 2023 through October 2024, showcasing the transformation of the bluff and pathway. These projects align with infrastructure and city facilities, a key focus of the 2025-2030 strategic plan. Both the bluff stabilization and the pathway projects represent significant improvements to our city's infrastructure, ensuring a lasting positive impact for our residents well into the future. At this time, I'd like to ask Director Thomas to, you want to watch this first? Okay. sound system. Michael, now, or is this it? You're not talking. Okay, very good. All right, the next item on the agenda is comments by city manager.
Well, thank you, Mayor and members of City Council. Good evening. Since he's not going to get up, I will take a moment just to extend my thanks and gratitude to the city staff on this project. This one, as you guys know, was a long road for us in many ways, but virtually every department was involved in this project, and I really lump both the stabilization work and the boardwalk together, from the initial financial planning, engineering, design work, fundraising campaign, to construction, landscaping. We just had so many employees who played a role in this project, and sometimes to our detriment, we just quickly move on to the next project and don't always take an opportunity to celebrate our successes. But as someone who got to watch this project from start to finish, I think the pride that our staff take in these projects and making Lake Forest look beautiful with just exceptional and high quality work is something we shouldn't take for granted. So I just want to make sure I have an opportunity to recognize staff top to bottom who played a role in that project. And I think the feedback from the community's been overwhelmingly positive. So good job by everybody. All right, and we're giving this another try. Annie, thank you for your patience from a couple weeks ago. But tonight, for my community spotlight, I am thrilled to introduce Annie McAvini, the founder and executive director of Fill a Heart for Kids, one of the most successful nonprofits that we really have here in Lake Forest. And Fill a Heart for Kids, I've always been so impressed, not just for the incredible work that they've done to help and meaningfully improve the lives of disadvantaged youth throughout the region, but also to instill a sense of volunteerism amongst our own kids here in the Lake Forest community, and seeing how many of Lake Forest youth help volunteer to put together a lot of the care packages and other things you do is very inspiring. So we're thrilled to have Annie here today to tell a little bit about her story. And with that, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you all for your generous time, and we are so fortunate to be in Lake Forest. And I have to share, it's going to be almost 18 years, it'll be 18 years in February since we took in our first homeless child. And everybody in our community gathered around and helped him. Every child that's come into our home, the community has embraced. They've made all their school experiences so incredibly special, and I just can't thank you enough. Now, I know I have a slide presentation, so terrific. So we sponsor 4,000 children, and within 11 months, our programs increased, and the number of children increased over 33%. We provide team building experiences, toiletries for dignity, seasonal clothing, and tutoring to reduce peer shaming and increase school attendance. I just want to make sure I'm doing this right. Wait, you know what? I want to take this back. See all these precious children here? We tutor them. And each one of these children was trafficked by their families, and now they live in a foster facility. And my dedicated and our team and our incredible community, and I'm talking about Lake Forest High School kids that tutor these precious children, and they have grown to just love them and be a wonderful part of our program. And it's so cute right here because see these little pictures? They, of course, looked at the high school as old people, and so they made the Mother's Day pictures. So it was super cute. Here's just a few of our programs. So we have about, on average, between 6,000 and 7,000 volunteers a year. You'll see in the upper right-hand corner some of our employees folding clothes for children, and then we have Martin Luther King Day, and we have Project ELF. We have so many programs for children. And then you'll see that precious little girl holding a bag. We start as early as preschool, tutoring and working with children. So we began Fill a Heart 17 years ago when we first took in our baby, Michael, and he now attends Lake Forest High School, and he's doing wonderful. And 27 children, 17 years later, we've been so fortunate to be in this community. And you can see over here, it says that we sponsor over 230,000 pounds of food. We do weekend food bags for children that don't have access to food pantries to reduce children from committing crimes to eat. And we also work with children over the holidays. And it's very important over Thanksgiving break. That's a really scary time for children. You can't imagine what they go through and how many children that actually traffic themselves for food. So we work with teachers and social workers. We never do giveaways. Every child in our program, every care package that leaves our store is for a specific child. So we have week care programs, we have critical necessities, we have education for brighter futures, and then we do environmental necessities where we're updating group homes for children. And most people don't realize orphanages, when the name changed to group homes, many people thought all children had foster families, but we have thousands of children right now that need to be adopted or have a foster family, and we've lost so many foster families because budget cuts, intense budget cuts, and we had wonderful families fostering children, and they could no longer afford to do it. Many children were returned to their families, and so that's why we work so hard with the community. And we just had a really sweet day at Lake Forest High School. Every single high school student volunteered with us last Friday. They made candy boo hands for children that aren't allowed to trick or treat. That's a really important holiday for children. If you think about it, take yourself back in time when you put that costume on and you talked about to your friends who you were trick-or-treating with. Now picture the child that lived in a cage or was lit on fire or was rescued from a horrific crime, and they now live in a group home because too many people are afraid to foster them, right? And they need a lot of help. They need a lot of mental support. So we bring trunk or treat to them. So tomorrow we'll be at Allendale, then next week we'll be at 3 other different group homes. And the majority of kids that are decorating their cars and getting dressed up are from our community. So Lake Forest is really, we wouldn't be where we are today at Fill a Heart if it wasn't for all the Lake Forest loving families. So you're never too young to volunteer. And we have so much fun. You'll see for Elvin right up there, that's a bunch of kids that dressed up and sang for trick-or-treating and decorated. We have little kids. You see the superhero. All these precious little children, preschoolers, came in their superhero outfits and helped. And then you'll see a darling little girl by Phil Hart's truck. She goes to St. Mary's School, and all the children participated and helped. It was really special. And then, of course, our friends at the Chicago Bears invited our children, and they got to get autographs, and they had just a wonderful day. These are some of our programs. We have volunteer opportunities 6 days a week. And our most important programs right now that we need help with, Project Gobble Gobble, we have to make sure all children have enough food. And so right now we have about 1,000 children, 1,000 requests from teachers for Thanksgiving food boxes. And many of these precious children, the parents don't have vehicles to pick up food. It might be too far for a pantry, or unfortunately we have parents that have kind of checked out. And so how do we help them? We partner with teachers and social workers. I have to say something. I saw Lake Forest Police here. You guys have been amazing to our charity. We've had children that have run away to Fill a Heart in the middle of the night begging us for help because they're afraid to go back to their families. And recently, Lake Forest Police, they were so amazing. When they came in, they were able to get the children calmed down. And if it wasn't for them, those 2 young ladies would have gone back to their families. Instead, they got to go back to their group home, and a whole trafficking ring was disassembled. I don't know if you were part of that, but we're really grateful for that. And I just had to say thank you. So we have Project Boo this week and next week. We have Project Warm, which is really important. We sponsored already over 2,000 children who many are living in garages. They're unhoused and they're couch hopping. We have a whole task force that we work with that goes into the woods, parks, abandoned buildings to make sure none of the children are living there. Then we go on to, we did Project Worm, Project Gobble Gobble. If anyone wants to sign up to help fill food bags, we always need more support. And then we go into Project Elf. And of course, those programs are really important. A lot of people sometimes ask us to do the Frosty the Snowman snowball wish list, or they ask us to do a Christmas tree wish list at their companies. And sometimes they get so disappointed because it's very rare when our children ask for toys. They're always asking for necessities. And then we move on to Party for a Purpose. If you ever have a birthday that you'd like to celebrate at Fill a Heart, any way to get the word out is so important to us. So here we go. Here's Discover. They're very involved. Abbott, AbbVie, so many wonderful companies. And then we have St. Mary's Children. They packed a bunch of snack bags for an upcoming event. And then here we are delivering food to children. Oh, there we go. Oh, there's Ben Grum and his son. Everybody knows Ben. And then here's just a sample of a picture. We have St. Mary's kids. We're so proud of them. They just did the Domino Challenge. And I think they collected over 500 boxes of cereal. So then all the cereal goes into our food boxes and it's distributed to children. So here's some more upcoming events. And then we move into spring break. Our doors are always open from 10 on. We get calls all night long. So if you ever want to host an event with Fill a Heart to help children create brighter futures, we would be grateful. If you have a specific talent or you'd like to invite our children to your company, we have life skills classes. It's so important to reach our children very young. And so I appreciate all the time you've given us. I know it's been a long day for you. And then I want to share something. Today, in August, we gave out more school supplies than we ever have. So you'll see the precious little girls. Both of these little girls were rescued. And they're so adorable, and they were so happy. One of the little girls said she never had a backpack or new school supplies. And she said she wasn't going to dumpster dive or look in garbage cans for little pencils anymore. So what we do is so important. And this year we sponsored, just in the month of August alone, 71,000 school supplies for foster facilities and schools. And then you'll see the little sign. It's a heart. That's from our healing art class. Oh, so I should say, the Darling children to the left, they're from Waukegan. They're in our summer school program. And all of our summer school programs are all business incubator classes because we want to teach children about the mechanics of building things and marketing things and selling things. And it was so cute. One of the children's groups, they marketed so hard. And at the art show, not this year, but last year, they sold $2,400 worth of jewelry. Then they had to go to Lake Forest Bank and save some. And then they had to invest some. And then they got to spend a little more. And their business now is still thriving. And their children are kindergarten through 5th grade. And then you'll see the little girls. This is our homework club. They live in a foster facility. And you see the cute little heart. That little girl wrote, "Somebody helping me." And she put a little Band-Aid on her heart. And she had just been rescued. And she got out of the hospital. And now she's in a group home. So, and then if you look to the right, we have wonderful children coming in on Martin Luther King Day to volunteer. And on average, we have about 200 people that volunteer on Martin Luther King Day. So here's Project Boo. And you'll see those cute little candy hands, and our high school students made over 1,000 of them. So, and then here we have our Project Warm program going on. We have our cooking classes. We teach children. You'll see the little boy in the very center. He learned how to make a solar oven, and that's especially important for children when they're homeless, to be creative. I'm not saying he's homeless, by the way, but this little boy's in our learning program, and he's really wonderful. So this is just a little piece of what we do. Thank you so much for your time, and please come in and volunteer.
That concludes my report, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Okay. Well, that was impressive and somewhat heartbreaking. I would have to say that there's actually a need for all that. Anyway, the next item on the agenda is an opportunity for citizens to address the City Council. Is there anybody present who would like to address the council? Feel free to come on up and state your name if you choose.
Or not. No.
Just a very quick thank you to the city and everybody involved in the Bluff project and the walkway. That event was just flawless. And so many people are using the walkway now. It's really nice. And I was just sharing some photos I took very early in the morning, how it's lit up, and it's absolutely beautiful. So if you get a chance to go down after the sun goes down, you really want to see how pretty it looks. So it's just wonderful. And again, everyone was just amazing, and I think people enjoyed it. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Certainly agree with that. It is an incredible project, and I think that with time, it's one of those things that's going to get more incredible as the everything grows. Just amazing, and again, one of those unique things that Lake Forest does. All right, the next item on, is there anybody else who would like to address the council? The next item on the agenda is committee reports, and we will start with the Finance Committee. First item there will be the GFOA Triple Crown Award presentation and Distinguished Budget Presentation Award, and this will be presented by Alderman Weber.
Thank you, Mayor Tack. Recently, the city was notified by the Government Finance Officers Association, that's GFOA, as I will continue to refer it, and that the city's fiscal year 23 popular annual fiscal report, PAFR, has received the GFOA's PAFR award. The GFOA established the Popular Annual Financial Reporting Awards program in 1991 to encourage and assist state and local governments to extract information from their annual comprehensive financial report to produce high-quality popular annual financial reports specifically designed to be readily accessible and easily understandable to the general public and other interested parties without a background in public finance, and to recognize individual governments that are successful in achieving that goal. Successfully achieving this award puts the city in a very exclusive club as GFOA's Triple Crown winner for the third year in a row. This designation is for governmental units that have been awarded the GFOA's Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting, the GFOA Distinguished Budget Presentation Award, and the GFOA PAFR Award. The city has earned the GFOA Financial Reporting Award 45 consecutive years, the GFOA Budget Presentation Award for 9 consecutive years, including recently being notified of receiving the award for the city's fiscal year 25 budget, and the city's earned the GFOA PAFR Award for 3 consecutive years. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, there are more than 90,000 units of government in the U.S. Only 354 units of government in the U.S. currently holds the GFOA Triple Crown recognition. I'd like to give a round of applause to our finance. Thank you so much for your excellent work that you do each and every day that allows our city to be nationally recognized. We have a couple of our members here, Director Holub, Diane Hall, and, pardon me, I'm drawing a blank, Mark, and Jamie. Thank you so, so much. All of you have your hands into bringing this information forthcoming to our residents, and I, as your finance chair, is very, very grateful. Thank you. Secondly, we would like to acknowledge the receipt of the 2024 fiscal year treasurer's report. And can I have Jimmy Scott please come up? Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of City Council. The Finance Department is requesting acknowledgement and receipt of the fiscal year 2024 annual treasurer's report. This report is included in your packet. It summarizes the city financial condition, and it includes a list of employees' salary and wage ranges, along with vendors who have paid more than $2,500 throughout the fiscal year. Per Illinois state statute, the city must file this report with the city clerk, the county clerk, and be published in a local newspaper within 6 months after the end of the fiscal year, which would be the end of this month. The city has planned to publish this on Thursday, October 24th in the Lake Forester. We do want to remind you all, however, that through our financial transparency initiatives, the vendor information is posted on the city's website monthly through our financial transparency interactive reports. If you have any questions, let me know.
Any questions? It's great to know that it's listed on the city's website. I'm not sure how many people get the Lake Forester anymore. I was just thinking that. Used to be like the
I do, and
paper.
I don't know
you?
why I do.
Well, this is apparently why.
Ms. Scott, thank you so much for bringing that
Yeah.
to us tonight. We do have council action on this item for acknowledged receipt of a 2024 treasurer's report. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. Thank you. The next item is items for omnibus vote consideration. I will read all the items. If there's any item that a member of the council would like removed or taken separately, please notify me at the completion of the reading. Item 1, approval of the October 7th, 2024 City Council meeting minutes. Item 2, consideration of a request to waive the fidelity bond requirement in connection with holding 3 raffles in the city of Lake Forest for the School of St. Mary Parent Association. Approval by motion. Item 3, approval of health insurance contracts for calendar year 2025. Item 4, approve the contract to Camp Nagila Midwest, doing business as Camp Henry Horner, in the amount of $34,000. Item 5, approval of a Public Works Committee recommendation to authorize the city manager to execute all required permanent easement acquisition documents for the Deer Path Streetscape project to include the potential purchase of needed easements in an amount not to exceed $54,700. Item 6, approval of a purchase of a replacement forestry section stump grinder in the amount of $105,316 and the trade-in of the current 2005 forestry section stump grinder as a surplus property in the amount of $7,500 to Alexander Equipment Company Incorporated. And finally, item 7, consideration of a recommendation from the Plan Commission in support of a plat of condominium for a building under construction at 1095 Kelmscott Way. Approval by motion. Are there any items that council members would like removed or taken separately? No? Any comments on the items? Other than it's amazing how much a stump grinder costs. All right. At this time, can I have a motion to approve the 7 omnibus items as presented?
So moved.
Second.
This would be a roll call vote.
Alderman Walther,
Aye.
Alderman Novit,
Aye.
Alderman Clemmons,
Aye.
Alderman Notes,
Aye.
Alderman Powers,
Aye.
Alderman Goshgarian,
Aye.
Alderman Levert,
Aye.
Alderman Weber.
Aye.
8 yeas, 0 nay, motion carries.
Perfect. All right. There is neither old business nor new business this evening. The final item is items for discussion or comments by council members. Is there any? Alderman Notes.
Thank you, Mayor. Jason, since the wonderful ribbon cutting ceremony of the ramp the other weekend, I've been getting asked a lot of questions about dogs being able to be at the beach now that the season is over. I would appreciate the city making an official public statement on what our policy is for dogs at the beach.
Sure. Well, current policy does prohibit dogs, whether leashed or unleashed, at the beach. I would have to look into the code, but I presume that would include the boardwalk as well. We have received a few complaints about dogs on the boardwalk, whether they're going all the way down to the beach or not. That's the current policy as it exists. Ultimately, if the city council wants to direct staff to revisit that policy, we can certainly do that. It is a controversial topic, and it comes up periodically, and there's strong opinions on both sides of the issue. If the council feels it warrants additional discussion, happy to provide some background and context for the council on how the current ordinance came to be, some of the challenges with potential revisions to the ordinance, but we'll kind of await your direction on that.
Thank you, Jason.
Any other comments, questions? Okay. Hearing none, may I then have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We're complete. Thank you very much.
I'm so sorry. That's hilarious. No, I'm good with it.
Let somebody.
I'm good with it.
So happy.
All right. That was fun.